In a faraway part of the galaxy, on a massive space station called Eos Prime, representatives from many alien civilizations came together for one of the most important meetings in history. This was no ordinary gathering. It was a summit meant to bring peace after centuries of conflict over land and resources. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a flicker of hope. Among the attendees were humans, led by Ambassador Daniel Carter and his trusted advisor, Rachel Meyer. Their presence drew curious looks from the other delegates, as whispers about their intentions filled the corridors. The space station itself was a marvel of engineering, with shimmering walls that glowed softly and gravity systems designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Alien species with scaly skin, glowing eyes, or even translucent bodies moved through the halls, their footsteps, or equivalent sounds, echoing faintly. Despite the diversity, everyone shared one goal: to find a way to live together without war. But the human delegation stood out, not just because they looked different, but because they seemed distant and uninterested in compromise. As the first session began, Daniel took his seat at the large circular table. The room was filled with translators humming softly, ensuring every species could understand each other. Rachel sat beside him, her face calm, but her mind racing. She knew this meeting was critical. Earth's population was growing fast, and its need for energy was increasing daily. Without access to certain star systems rich in resources, humanity might struggle to survive in the long run. Yet she also understood that pushing too hard could anger the other species, leading to more conflict instead of peace. The discussion started cautiously, with each side presenting their case. Some aliens spoke of fairness and equality, while others demanded respect for their ancestral territories. When it was humanity's turn, Daniel surprised everyone. He didn't mince words. "We require full control over several disputed star systems," he said firmly. His tone left little room for negotiation. The room fell silent for a moment before murmurs broke out. Many delegates exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond. Rachel leaned forward slightly, trying to gauge the reactions around the table. The insect-like Zorathians clicked their mandibles irritably, while the aquatic Valens shifted uncomfortably in their water-filled pods. It wasn't just Daniel's demand that shocked them. It was the confidence behind it. Humanity had always been seen as newcomers to the galactic stage, inexperienced and sometimes naive. But now they acted like equals, or even superiors. To make matters worse, Rachel presented evidence during the session. She showed data suggesting that some alien species had secretly mined resources within areas claimed by humans. Her presentation was thorough and convincing, leaving many delegates stunned. The Zorathian ambassador hissed angrily, denying the accusations, while the Valen representative tried to defend their actions diplomatically. The mood in the room shifted from cautious optimism to outright hostility. Outside the chamber, alien leaders gathered in small groups, discussing what had just happened. Some admired humanity's boldness, while others saw it as arrogance. A few wondered if the humans had come to negotiate at all, or if they simply wanted to assert dominance. Back inside, Daniel remained composed, almost indifferent, as if none of the backlash mattered. Rachel, however, felt a knot forming in her stomach. She had worked tirelessly for months to prepare for this summit, hoping to build bridges rather than burn them. Now she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. Despite the chaos unfolding around them, Daniel didn't flinch. He believed strongly in his mission, to secure humanity's future, no matter the cost. But as the day wore on, cracks began to show in his otherwise stoic demeanor. Little did anyone know, including Rachel, that Daniel carried secrets from the past, memories of battles fought and lives lost, that fueled his determination. And these secrets would soon shape not only the outcome of the summit, but the fate of the entire galaxy. As the summit continued, tensions grew thicker with each passing hour. The initial shock of humanity's bold demands had worn off, replaced by anger and suspicion among the alien delegates. The Zorathians, a species known for their quick tempers and sharp tongues, were particularly vocal in their protests. Their ambassador, a towering insectoid creature with shimmering green exoskeleton, stood up during one session and accused humanity of greed. "You come here claiming ownership of systems you barely even know," he snapped, his voice buzzing like an angry swarm. "How can we trust you when your own history is filled with wars over land?" Daniel Carter listened silently, his expression unreadable. Beside him, Rachel Meyer scribbled notes on her tablet, though her mind was racing. She tried to stay focused, but the weight of what was happening pressed heavily on her shoulders. Humanity's reputation was at stake, and she feared Daniel's hardline approach might backfire. When it was her turn to speak, she chose her words carefully. "We are not here to claim what isn't ours," she said calmly, addressing the room. "But Earth's survival depends on access to these resources. We seek fairness, not conquest." Her explanation did little to ease the hostility. The Valens, a gentle aquatic species who communicated through melodic tones, expressed concern about humanity's sudden aggression. Their representative floated gracefully in her water-filled pod, her bioluminescent markings flickering softly as she spoke. "Peace requires trust," she said. "If we cannot find common ground now, how will we ever move forward together?" Her words resonated with some delegates, but others dismissed them as naive. Back in their quarters later that evening, Rachel confronted Daniel about the growing divide. "Do you realize what you're doing?" she asked, frustration evident in her voice. "Every time you refuse to budge, you push them further away. At this rate, there won't be any chance for peace." Daniel leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his gaze steady. "And if I give in, what then?" he replied. "They'll take advantage of us, Rachel. You've seen their reports. They'd been exploiting our territories for years. Why should we bow down to them?" Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. She wanted to argue, to remind him that diplomacy wasn't about winning or losing. It was about finding balance. But deep down, she understood where he was coming from. Years ago, before becoming an ambassador, Daniel had served as a military officer on the front lines of human-alien conflicts. He had witnessed horrors most people couldn't imagine. Entire colonies destroyed, families torn apart, lives lost because of territorial disputes. Those experiences had shaped him into the man he was today. Determined, unyielding, and deeply protective of humanity's future. Despite her frustration, Rachel couldn't ignore the pain behind his actions. That night, as they prepared for the next day's sessions, she decided to dig deeper into the data they had presented earlier. Something about the evidence didn't sit right with her. While reviewing the files, she discovered inconsistencies, small details that didn't add up. It seemed as though parts of the information had been altered, possibly to make the other species look worse than they actually were. Shocked, Rachel realized someone within their team might have tampered with the data. The revelation left her torn. Should she confront Daniel, or keep quiet to avoid causing more chaos? As she stared at the screen, her thoughts drifted to the bigger picture. If the truth came out, it could destroy whatever fragile trust remained between humanity and the other species. On the other hand, hiding it would only prolong the deception. For now, she chose to say nothing, hoping to find a way to fix the situation without making things worse. Meanwhile, outside their quarters, rumors spread like wildfire. Some delegates speculated that humanity had brought hidden weapons onto the station, while others whispered about secret alliances with rogue factions. The atmosphere aboard EOS Prime grew increasingly volatile, with security patrols doubling and nervous glances exchanged in the hallways. Even the station's artificial lighting seemed dimmer, casting long shadows that mirrored the uncertainty hanging over everyone. As the second day drew to a close, Rachel found herself standing by a large observation window, gazing out at the vastness of space. Stars twinkled in the distance, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. She wondered if humanity was truly ready for this kind of responsibility, or if they were simply repeating mistakes from their past. Whatever happened next, she knew would change everything. That night, after the tense sessions ended, Daniel Carter retreated to his private quarters aboard EOS Prime. He poured himself a cup of coffee from a small machine tucked into the corner of the room and sat down at the desk. The soft hum of the station's systems filled the silence as he stared at the steam rising from his cup. For the first time that day, his usual calm demeanor cracked slightly. Lines of worry etched across his face, and his hands trembled faintly as he set the cup down. Rachel Meyer entered moments later, her expression serious. She had been carrying the weight of the summit on her shoulders all day, but now she looked even more burdened. "Daniel," she began, closing the door behind her, "we need to talk." Her voice was firm, but tinged with concern. Daniel didn't look up immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long sigh. When he finally met her gaze, there was something raw and unguarded in his eyes, something Rachel hadn't seen before. "I know what you're going to say," Daniel said quietly. "You think I'm being too harsh, too stubborn, that I'm ruining any chance we have at peace." Rachel hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, that's exactly what I think," she admitted. "But it's not just about strategy or politics anymore. This is personal for you, isn't it?" Daniel looked away, his jaw tightening. For a while, he said nothing, staring at the blank wall as if searching for answers written in invisible ink. Finally, he spoke. "Do you remember the Thalaxian border conflict?" he asked. Rachel frowned, recalling the name vaguely. It had happened years ago, during Daniel's military service. "It was one of the bloodiest skirmishes between humans and aliens," he continued. "Entire colonies wiped out, families torn apart, all because some species thought they could take what wasn't theirs." Rachel listened intently, realizing how deeply those memories still affected him. "I lost friends out there, Rachel," Daniel said, his voice cracking slightly. "Good people who believed in diplomacy, in finding common ground. And where did that get them? Dead, while others profited off our losses." His fists clenched on the table, knuckles turning white. "If we don't stand firm now, history will repeat itself. We can't afford to be weak, not when so much is at stake." Rachel felt a pang of sympathy, but also frustration. She understood his pain, but she couldn't agree with his methods. "Being strong doesn't mean shutting everyone else out," she argued gently. "It means knowing when to fight and when to listen. What happens if we push too hard? If we alienate every other species here? Do you really believe humanity can survive alone in this galaxy?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He stood up and walked over to the window, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. The view was breathtaking, yet it only seemed to deepen his sense of isolation. "Maybe we won't have to survive alone," he said after a pause. "But I won't let us depend on species who see us as inferior, or worse, as prey. Humanity has come too far to bow down to anyone." The conversation left Rachel feeling uneasy. As much as she respected Daniel's dedication, she couldn't shake the feeling that his vision of strength might lead them down a dangerous path. Before leaving the room, she turned to him one last time. "Just promise me you'll think about what I said," she urged. "Because once these decisions are made, there's no turning back." As Rachel closed the door behind her, Daniel remained by the window, lost in thought. The weight of leadership pressed heavily on him, and he knew the choices he made would shape humanity's future, for better or worse. But deep inside, doubts lingered. Was he truly protecting Earth, or was he letting his past dictate their destiny? Outside, the station buzzed with activity as delegates prepared for another grueling day of negotiations. Little did they know, humanity's resolve, and perhaps its fate, was hanging precariously in the balance. The third day of negotiations began with a heavy atmosphere. Delegates from various alien species filed into the chamber, their expressions tense and guarded. Whispers filled the air as everyone took their seats, wondering what humanity's next move would be. Daniel Carter walked in last, his posture stiff and his face unreadable. Rachel Meyer followed closely behind him, her eyes scanning the room nervously. She could feel the hostility radiating from the other delegates, But she kept her composure, determined to see this through. As the session started, the Zorethian ambassador wasted no time launching an attack. Rising to his full height, he pointed a sharp claw at Daniel. "Your accusations yesterday were baseless," he hissed, his voice buzzing like an angry swarm. "You accuse us of theft while presenting false evidence. How dare you question our honor?" The room erupted into murmurs of agreement, with several species nodding in support. Rachel opened her mouth to respond, hoping to calm the situation, but Daniel raised a hand to stop her. He stood up slowly, his gaze steady as he addressed the room. "If my words offend you, then perhaps you should examine your own actions," he said, his tone icy. "Humanity has shown restraint for far too long. We've allowed others to exploit our resources, to dismiss our claims, and to treat us as if we are less than equal. Those days are over." His declaration sent shockwaves through the chamber. Some delegates gasped, while others exchanged furious glances. The Valon representative floated forward, her melodic voice trembling with emotion. "You speak of equality, yet your actions betray arrogance," she said. "Walking away from peace talks will not solve anything. It will only deepen the divide between us." Daniel didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. "Then perhaps it's time we prove ourselves," he replied. "If peace cannot be achieved through dialogue, then we'll secure our place through strength." His words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. For a moment, the entire room fell silent, the weight of his statement sinking in. Rachel felt her heart sink. She had seen this coming, but hearing it aloud made it real and irreversible. As Daniel signaled for them to leave, she hesitated, glancing around the room one last time. Alien leaders stared back, some with anger, others with disbelief. None of them moved as the human delegation rose from their seats and walked out of the chamber without another word. In the hallway outside, Rachel finally confronted Daniel. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Do you realize what this means? You've just thrown away any chance of diplomacy." Daniel stopped walking and turned to face her. "I did what was necessary," he said firmly. "Sometimes peace is a luxury we can't afford." Rachel stared at him, struggling to process his words. She wanted to argue, to remind him of all they had worked for, but she knew it was pointless. Daniel's mind was made up, and nothing she said would change that. With a heavy sigh, she stepped back, feeling defeated. "If this is how you want to lead," she muttered, "then I can't follow you anymore." Her words hit Daniel harder than she expected. For a brief moment, uncertainty flashed across his face, but he quickly masked it. Without another word, Rachel turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the corridor. Her footsteps echoed softly as she disappeared around the corner, her decision clear. She would no longer be part of this reckless path. News of humanity's abrupt departure spread quickly throughout EOS Prime. Delegates gathered in small groups, discussing what had happened. Some called for sanctions against Earth, while others suggested forming alliances to counter humanity's growing influence. Back on Earth, public opinion divided sharply. Supporters praised Daniel's boldness, believing humanity needed to assert itself. Critics condemned his actions, warning of the dangers ahead. As the station buzzed with tension, Daniel stood by a window, staring out at the stars. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Had he gone too far? Was there still a way to salvage the situation? But even as these thoughts surfaced, he pushed them aside. Humanity's survival came first, no matter the cost. Weeks passed after humanity's dramatic exit from the Peace Summit, and the galaxy felt different. News of their departure had spread like wildfire, sparking heated debates among alien leaders and citizens alike. Some species saw it as proof of human arrogance, while others viewed it as a reckless act born out of fear. On Earth, reactions were just as divided. Supporters hailed Daniel Carter as a hero who stood up for humanity's rights, while critics warned that his actions could lead to war. Amidst all this turmoil, Rachel Meyer tried to distance herself from the chaos. Rachel had returned to her home in New Chicago, a sprawling city filled with towering skyscrapers and bustling streets. She spent her days walking along the lakefront or sitting by her window, staring at the horizon. Her resignation from the diplomatic team weighed heavily on her mind, but she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Every time she thought about Daniel's cold determination, she felt a pang of sadness, not just for him, but for what humanity might lose because of his choices. One evening, as she prepared dinner, her communicator buzzed softly. It was an encrypted message from someone unexpected. Sarah Bennett, a former scientist turned activist, known for advocating peaceful coexistence between species. Rachel hesitated before opening it. She hadn't spoken to Sarah in years, and the last thing she wanted was to be drawn back into the political storm. But curiosity got the better of her. The message was short and direct. "We need to talk," Sarah wrote. "This path you've chosen, or rather, the one humanity is being forced down, is dangerous. If we don't act now, there won't be a future worth fighting for." Rachel read the words several times, feeling a mix of anger and guilt. Was Sarah blaming her for what happened, or was she genuinely trying to help? The two women met the next day in a quiet cafe near the lake. Sarah arrived wearing simple clothes, her blonde hair tied back in a loose ponytail. She looked tired but determined. "Thanks for seeing me," she said, sliding into the seat across from Rachel. "I know you're probably still processing everything." Rachel nodded, stirring her coffee absently. "It's not easy," she admitted, "watching everything fall apart like that. I feel responsible, even though I left." Sarah leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "You're not responsible for Daniel's decisions," she said, "but you can still make a difference. Right now, humanity is isolating itself, building walls instead of bridges. That's exactly what some factions want, to turn us against each other so they can gain power. If we don't find a way to reconnect, this galaxy will spiral into conflict." Rachel listened carefully, her heart sinking further with every word. She knew Sarah was right, but the thought of going back, of facing Daniel again, felt impossible. "What do you expect me to do?" she asked finally. "He won't listen to reason. He's convinced he's doing what's best for Earth." Sarah sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Maybe not directly," she said, "but there are others who respect you, who trust your judgment. You could start small, reach out to key figures, share your perspective, show them that peace isn't weakness, it's survival. And if enough people believe that, maybe we can change the tide." For the first time in weeks, Rachel felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't much, but it was something. As she walked home later that night, she realized she couldn't sit idly by while the galaxy teetered on the edge of disaster. Whether Daniel liked it or not, humanity needed allies, and Rachel decided she would do whatever it took to remind everyone of that truth. Meanwhile, tensions continued to rise across the galaxy. Skirmishes broke out along the borders of human-claimed space, each side accusing the other of provoking violence. The fragile peace that once seemed possible was slipping away, leaving only uncertainty and the looming threat of war in its place. Months after humanity walked away from the peace summit, the galaxy began to feel the weight of their absence. The fragile calm that had once existed between species started to crack under the pressure of mistrust and suspicion. Alien leaders grew bolder in their accusations, claiming humanity's actions proved they were preparing for war. Rumors spread about secret military upgrades and hidden bases near disputed star systems. Meanwhile, on Earth, Daniel Carter worked tirelessly to strengthen humanity's defenses, convinced that conflict was inevitable. One evening, as Daniel sat alone in his office reviewing reports, he received a message from an unexpected source. It was Sarah Bennett again, this time requesting an urgent meeting. At first, he considered ignoring it. After all, what could she possibly say that would change his mind? But something about her persistence made him curious. Reluctantly, he agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a small orbital station orbiting one of Earth's moons. The station was quiet, its corridors dimly lit and nearly empty. When Daniel arrived, Sarah was already waiting for him in a private conference room. She looked the same as Rachel had described her, calm but resolute, with an air of quiet determination. "Thank you for coming," she said as he entered, her voice steady. "I know you're busy." Daniel took a seat across from her, his expression guarded. "What do you want?" he asked bluntly. "If this is about the summit, I don't have time for regrets." Sarah shook her head. "This isn't about regret," she replied. "It's about survival, for everyone. What you've done has pushed us closer to war than ever before. Do you really think humanity can win against every other species combined?" Her question struck a nerve, though Daniel didn't let it show. "We won't back down," he said firmly. "Not when our future depends on those resources." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "And what happens if we lose?" she countered. "Even if you somehow manage to hold your ground, how long will it last? Every battle will drain us further, leaving Earth vulnerable. Is that really the legacy you want to leave behind?" For a moment, Daniel didn't respond. He stared at the table, his thoughts racing. Deep down, he knew she had a point. War wasn't just about winning. It was about enduring. And humanity's resources were already stretched thin. But admitting that meant questioning everything he had fought for, and he wasn't ready to do that yet. Instead, he changed the subject. "So what's your solution?" he asked, his tone skeptical. "More talks? More compromises?" "Not exactly," Sarah admitted. She pulled up a holographic map showing key locations along human-claimed space. "There's still a chance to avoid full-scale war, but it'll require action, not words. If you send a fleet to reinforce these areas without provoking outright conflict, you can buy time for cooler heads to prevail. Show strength, yes, but also restraint." Daniel studied the map carefully, considering her proposal. It wasn't perfect, but it might work. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of doubt about his own strategy. Could there be another way? As they wrapped up the meeting, Sarah added one final thought. "Remember, Daniel," she said softly, "leadership isn't just about protecting your people. It's about inspiring them. Right now, you're leading through fear, but fear only lasts so long." Her words stayed with him long after she left. That night, as he gazed out at the stars, Daniel found himself wondering if he'd been too quick to dismiss diplomacy. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next, and whatever choice he made now would shape not just Earth's future, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The galaxy held its breath as humanity faced its darkest hour. An alliance of alien forces, led by the Zorethians and supported by several other species, launched a coordinated assault on one of Earth's key colonies near the edge of human-claimed space. The attack came swiftly and without warning, catching the colony's defenders off guard. Ships clashed in orbit, explosions lighting up the blackness of space like fireworks. On the surface, civilians scrambled for shelter as energy blasts rained down from above. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter watched the unfolding chaos with a mix of anger and dread. Reports poured in from the front lines, each update more grim than the last. The colony was holding, for now, but it wouldn't last long against such overwhelming odds. Advisors urged him to retaliate with full force, to send every available ship into battle. But Daniel hesitated. He thought about Sarah Bennett's words and the map she had shown him. Was this truly the moment to prove humanity's strength, or was it time to try something different? Against his instincts, Daniel made a bold decision. Instead of launching a counterattack aimed at destroying the enemy fleet, he ordered a daring maneuver designed to demonstrate humanity's power without crossing into genocide. A massive formation of Earth's ships moved into position around the colony, creating an impenetrable defensive line. At the same time, smaller squadrons executed precision strikes against the attackers' supply lines, crippling their ability to continue the assault without causing unnecessary casualties. The gambit worked. The alien alliance, caught off guard by humanity's restraint, began to falter. Their leaders argued among themselves, unsure whether to press the attack or retreat. In the end, they chose to withdraw, leaving the colony battered but intact. Both sides counted their losses, ships destroyed, lives lost, and braced for what might come next. In the aftermath, Sarah Bennett reached out to Daniel once more. This time, her message carried a tone of cautious optimism. "You showed them we're not just fighters," she said during their meeting. "Now it's time to show them we're willing to talk." She presented a proposal: renewed peace talks under stricter conditions, overseen by neutral mediators to ensure fairness. Though hesitant, Daniel agreed. For the first time, he realized that leadership required more than pride or power. It demanded sacrifice. As ships from opposing sides gathered again around Eos Prime, the fate of the galaxy hung precariously in the balance. Delegates filed into the chamber, their expressions wary but hopeful. Humanity's delegation, led now by Rachel Meyer, who had returned at Daniel's request, took their seats alongside alien leaders. The air felt heavy with anticipation. When Rachel stood to speak, her voice trembled slightly, but her words carried weight. "We've all suffered enough," she said. "Let's find a way forward, together." Her speech sparked murmurs of agreement among the delegates. Slowly, painfully, discussions began anew. It wasn't easy. Old wounds ran deep, and trust didn't return overnight. But for the first time in months, there was hope. Humanity had proven it could stand firm when needed, but also step back when necessary. As negotiations dragged on, Daniel watched from afar, reflecting on how close they had come to ruin. Perhaps peace wasn't just a luxury after all. Perhaps it was the only path worth taking. And so, amidst uncertainty and fragile beginnings, the galaxy waited to see if humanity, and its leaders, could rise above themselves to forge a lasting peace.